Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Mhm.
Today, we're going to be looking at Liz Moore's God of the Woods.
Ooh, exciting.
It's a good one. It's a real page-turner,
Mhm.
and I'm very excited to talk about it with you today.
Yeah, this one is a real thinker. It gets under your skin.
Yeah.
It makes you think about those family dynamics and those family secrets and how the past can really haunt the present.
Yeah. And it all starts with this idyllic setting. Camp Emerson, nestled deep in the Adirondack Mountains.
Mhm.
It's owned by the Van Laar family.
Oh, yes, the Van Laar family. So much to unpack there.
There's so much. They are the picture of old money.
Yes, they are.
And with that comes a lot of baggage.
Yes, and we get to see that baggage play out across a few different timelines in the book. We go back to the 1950s, we visit 1961, and then we jump forward to the winter of 73 and the summer of 75. And in each of those times, we get these little pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, and the puzzle revolves around two disappearances.
Yes, two disappearances.
The first one is Peter Van Laar IV.
Peter Bear Van Laar IV.
Bear Van Laar. He disappears in 1961. And then 14 years later, his sister Barbara disappears from that same camp.
And it's not just that these disappearances happen. We really get to see how the family dynamics and that wealth and their influence all play into what happens.
Yeah, and one thing that really stood out to me about this book is that you start out kind of thinking that the Van Laars are this perfect family.
They seem to have it all.
They seem to have it all, but very quickly, you start to realize that there's something much darker going on.
Oh, yeah. There are cracks in that facade.
Yeah, for example, Barbara's father, Peter III, he's very controlling. He seems very concerned with appearances. And you start to wonder, does he actually care about finding out what happened to his children? Or is he more concerned with maintaining a certain image?
Right, and then you have Alice, Barbara's mother. She's very detached, and you have to wonder, is she just grieving, or is there something more to that?
Yeah, it's like everyone in this family has secrets,
Everyone.
and they're all kind of tangled up together.
Yeah.
And then you have Camp Emerson itself. I mean, the setting of this book is almost like another character.
Oh, it's definitely a character. The way Moore describes the Adirondacks, those dense forests, the isolated lakes, it's both beautiful and eerie at the same time.
It is, and it's interesting how she uses the wilderness to kind of mirror what's going on inside the characters. Like their secrets and their fears are almost reflected in the trees and the darkness of the woods.
Yeah, it's like the woods themselves are holding their breath,
Yes.
waiting for something to happen.
And then you have the camp's rules. The third rule, when lost, sit down and yell. That gets repeated throughout the book.
That's creepy.
It's unsettling. It's like there's this underlying threat that even if you're lost in these woods, you're not really alone.
Right, and we see that play out with Tracy Jewell, this shy camper who befriends Barbara. She's our eyes and ears in the camp. And she starts to notice some strange things happening.
Yeah, and Tracy is such an interesting character because she's also dealing with her own family issues.
Yeah, so she's already vulnerable.
Right. And then you have T.J. Hewitt, the camp director's daughter, who leads these intense survival classes. She's very competent, but also very guarded.
You never quite know what she's thinking.
No, you don't, and it makes her a very compelling character.
Yeah.
And then you have this event, the Black Fly Goodbye Party, that the Van Laars throw every year. It's like this big celebration.
Yeah.
But it also feels like they're trying to pretend everything's normal.
When it's so clearly not.
Exactly. It's all very surface level, while underneath, there's this current of darkness and secrets.
So we've got this family with secrets. Two disappearances, a creepy camp. What happens next?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
It's like the book is slowly peeling back those layers.
It is.
To reveal the truth.
Yeah, and, we were talking about those different timelines.
Oh, yes.
And how they're all connected.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that we start off back in the 1950s.
Right, kind of the beginning.
Yeah, like the very beginning of the Van Laar family's legacy in the Adirondacks.
At their grand estate, self-reliance.
Self-reliance.
Yeah.
And we get to see that relationship between the Van Laars and the Hewitts.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Like the Hewitts have been their guides for generations.
Right, these local guides who've served this wealthy family.
And you can already sense that there's this power imbalance there.
Absolutely.
And it just makes you wonder how that dynamic might have played a role in what happened to Bear.
Yeah, how much did that influence things?
Right. And then we jump forward to 1961, the year that Bear disappears.
And it's not just a simple disappearance.
No.
We get these little details revealed slowly,
Yeah.
gradually.
It keeps you on edge.
It does.
You're like, wait a minute, what happened here?
Yeah, try to piece it all together.
I found myself rereading passages,
Oh, me too.
trying to find clues.
Absolutely. Like you're a detective
Yeah.
trying to solve the case right alongside the characters.
Right. And then we go to the winter of 1973.
Oh, yes.
We see Barbara struggling at boarding school,
Right away from home.
away from home, and her parents are trying to control her.
Trying to manage her.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it gives us this glimpse into her emotional state
Yes.
before she goes to Camp Emerson the next summer.
Right before everything happened.
Exactly. And we also get to see a different side of the Van Laars in this timeline.
They're not just secretive.
No, it's like their dysfunction
Goes much deeper.
goes much deeper.
It's not just about Bear's disappearance.
Right. It's like there's all these underlying issues.
Yeah, and it makes you really question their motives.
Oh, yeah. You're like, wait a minute. Are they really who they say they are?
Exactly.
And then finally we get to the summer of 1975.
This is it.
This is the summer that Barbara disappears.
The present day narrative.
The present day narratives. Yeah. Like all these timelines are kind of converging on this one summer.
It all leads up to this.
It all leads up to this. And then all of a sudden we have all these other characters
Oh, yeah.
who get pulled into the mystery.
Like drawn into the Van Laar's world.
Right. And one of the most interesting characters for me was Jacob Sluter.
Oh, Jacob.
He's a convicted killer.
Escaped from prison.
Escaped from prison.
Hiding out near the camp.
It's like, you know he's dangerous.
You know he's bad news.
But there's also this vulnerability to him.
There is.
You kind of almost feel bad for him.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though you know you shouldn't.
Yeah, and the fact that he witnesses some really important events.
He's like this accidental observer.
Yeah, it adds this whole other layer of intrigue to the story.
It does. You're like, what's his role in all of this?
And the way the other characters react to him.
Oh, yeah.
Some are terrified.
Some want to use him.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really shows how differently people react to fear.
Absolutely.
And then you have Louise Donadieu.
Barbara's counselor?
Yeah. She's young. She's inexperienced.
Totally out of her depth.
I mean, you can tell she's trying to do the right thing.
She means well.
She means well, but she makes some mistakes.
And those mistakes have consequences.
Yeah. It really shows how, even with good intentions, things can go wrong.
Especially in a situation this complex.
Yeah. And then there's her friendship with T.J. Hewitt.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
It is. Two women from very different backgrounds.
But they find common ground
They do.
in the middle of all this chaos.
Right. And it makes you think about how, even in the darkest of times,
Yeah.
we can find connection in unexpected places.
And support.
And support.
It's about the human connection.
Yeah. And, you know, this book doesn't shy away from difficult themes.
No, it doesn't.
There's abuse.
Right.
There's trauma.
The impact of secrets.
Yeah. And Moore handles these topics so carefully
She does.
with a lot of nuance.
And it makes you think.
Yeah. It's like she's not just trying to tell a thrilling story.
There's more to it.
She's really exploring what it means to be human.
The depths of human experience. The
Yeah.
good and the bad.
Exactly. All right, so we're back. And we're ready to dive into the final revelations of God of the Woods. And let me tell you, there are some twists and turns in this last book.
Oh, for sure. This is where Moore really gets you. You think you know what's going on.
But
and
I think
then-
it was a curveball.
She throws a curveball.
Yeah, and one of the biggest curveballs for me was T.J. Hewitt's confession
Oh, yes.
about her father and Bear's disappearance.
Her father's involvement. Yeah, that changes everything.
It really does. You know,
Mhm.
we knew that the Van Laars were keeping secrets. But to find out the lengths they went to cover things up.
To protect their reputation.
It's chilling.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew about them.
Right. Like they've been living a lie this whole time.
And it's all built on this foundation of tragedy,
And deceit. It's like a house of cards.
just waiting to fall apart.
Yeah, and the way Moore portrays Victor Hewitt, TJ's father, it's so interesting.
He's not a simple villain.
No, he's more complicated than that.
He's a man who's trapped.
Yeah, driven by loyalty and fear.
He made some terrible choices.
He did. But you can kind of understand why.
You can see his motivations.
Yeah, it shows that even good people can make bad decisions.
Especially when they're trying to protect the people they love.
And then there's John Paul McClellan Jr., the Van Laar's godson.
Oh, yeah. He's an interesting one.
At first, you think he's harmless.
Charming, even.
Yeah.
But
But
then
to start to unravel,
they do. The observer's cabin. The bloody uniform.
it all points to him.
It does, and it's a good reminder that things aren't always what they seem.
And that people in positions of power.
Can use that power to manipulate.
Exactly. And then there's Barbara's story.
Yeah.
We think it's about finding her abductor.
But it's so much more than that.
She chose to disappear.
She did. She made a conscious decision to escape.
To forge her own path.
And it's a really powerful statement about freedom.
About taking control of your own life,
Even when it's hard.
even when it means leaving everything behind.
Yeah. And the way PJ helps her.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's this act of defiance.
And compassion.
Yeah, they create this new life for Barbara.
It's a testament to the strength of their bond.
Two women who found each other.
In the midst of all this darkness.
And created something good.
Something powerful.
Something hopeful. God of the Woods is a story that will stay with you.
It will. It makes you think.
It makes you feel.
And it leaves you with this sense of both darkness and light.
A complexity of human nature.
Yeah, if you're looking for a book that will challenge you,
A book that will make you question everything.
then this is the one for you.
God of the Woods, dive in.
Dive in and remember that rule from Camp Emerson when loss and Helvrist. Sit down and yell. Well, after reading this book, you might just find yourself yelling for all the right reasons. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.